Michel Pereira versus Andre Fialho.
Is that how it is?
I don't know. I'm currently reading a comment that says Andre Fialho is pronounced Feeal-yo. So if you got me messed up, then it's your fault.
Fialho.
Yeah.
Andre.
In the end, all of the commentators said it different, and Bruce Buffer said it different. And I think I'll go more for how Bruce Buffer said it, because he doesn't he check and stuff?
So you're going to have to yell it into the microphone then. Let me know when you're going to do it. I'll take my headset off.
No, I'm okay.
What did you think to Pereira? Because we all have an expectation that Pereira is going to come in bouncing off the walls.
Yes.
What were you? Because he's calmed down. He's had 3 fights in a row now, and he's looked a bit calmer and a bit more.
Oh, well, I didn't think when he backflipped off the weigh-ins. If I was his coach, oh my God.
Yeah, you see him just tearing his knee apart. It's like that Johnny Walker. That's what we were talking about. The Johnny Walker super team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what is it? Sunglasses. Oh, I like him as a fighter as well. Ferguson.
Tony. So we're going to make a super team.
Yeah.
Sponsored by those indoor trampoline parks, like Gravity and stuff. And that's going to be their MMA gym. We're gonna make a cage trampoline for them, and we've got Tony Ferguson, we've got Michel Pereira,
yeah,
we've got
Johnny Walker.
Who else? Who goes in the Gravity Super Team? That's another one you can put in the comments.
Do you have one, JB? You look like you're thinking about it.
Manel Cap, he's pretty bad.
Manel Cap's a good one. Yeah, he's always springing and flying and stuff. You could even put Cyril in there, although he wasn't particularly airborne this weekend. They could come out to Jamiroquai, Anti-Gravity. Anti-Gravity. That'd be cool, I reckon. I'd watch that shit. Why not? Backflipping all over the place. Anyway, I thought Michel Pereira looked good. He's got 3 unanimous decision wins now. Nico Price, Chaos Williams, and Fialho.
Yeah.
As well as that rear naked choke in the third against Imadaev. So he's pacing himself. He's fighting into the later rounds. He would have won against Diego Sanchez had he not need him illegally. So it's basically he's learned his lesson from the Tristan Connolly fight, where he flipped himself into a cardio hole.
Well, the only thing that I mentioned to you while we were watching the fight is that he always looks like the bigger fighter. He always looks like he's, like, I can walk you down because I'm so much massively bigger than you. But he's moving around and that kind of...
He's moving around like he's moved up a weight class.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he's fighting bigger guys, yeah. But then, I think that's more of a reflection of his confidence in those ranges. Because, like, if he's got space, he's a bit more... I mean, he's not stationary. He's never stationary. But he's a bit more kind of comfortable in his posture. When he was being pressured, because Fialho was just trying to back him up all the time to get into boxing range, you could see that... There's a bit of like anxiety in the movement. It's a little bit like, can't get trapped up against the fence, and then he's trying to bounce off in different directions. I just think that's because he is the bigger guy. He looked bigger and stronger. You would think that if he tucked up and started trading punches, he'd probably have the advantage in power. But he just doesn't seem confident in that range. Like that's either why he's all the way out and he's like poking and prodding at the midsection, that was a nice technique, a front kick to the midsection. Or when he was closed down, he would level change, even if he didn't really want the takedown. I don't know. I don't know whether he's got what it takes to get into the top of the division. I don't see anything particularly like stand out in his game that makes him look particularly calculated. Like if I look at the guys in the top, so let's look outside the top 10. So you've got Salikov, who's an excellent striker, and Pereira's got a chance of catching him with something wild, but I think Salikov's just generally an all-round better striker. Ponzinibbio's definitely a more polished striker, even if he's got a smaller skill set. And the Leech can take a hell of a shot and doesn't do anything particularly reckless.
Yeah.
Like they're all bad fights. And then you're into Jeff Neal and Chimaev and Michael Chiesa. I don't know. I mean, I just don't see anything particularly special in his game that sets him apart from other welterweights. He might find himself a bit of a gatekeeper. But I think if he would have that final finishing thing, like final finishing component, that wouldn't be the case because he's able to move in ways that majority of the people in the division aren't, right? And majority of the people in the whole roster aren't. For sure.
But I think it's the fact that it's like decision, like after I know he had the rear naked choke, but when he's fighting, you're kind of, or that's how I felt when I was watching it. I was just kind of wait till he got clipped while doing something crazy. You know, it's almost like, oh, if only you would calculate that craziness just a little bit. If you just hone it and control it and direct it into, because he's huge, he can generate power and he can definitely knock somebody out.
But then what did you do against Fialho when he had him hurt? Like, he hit him with a good couple of punches. Andre rocked back and was hurt and went in for a flying knee and didn't connect. And then he landed, threw a couple more shots and hurt him again, and then tried to throw the flying knee again to get the finish. He's too obsessed with being with getting those highlight reel finishes, and I don't think it helped in his UFC debut coming in and getting one over Danny Roberts, because I would imagine that from up until that point, his record coming into the UFC was 21-9 was his record. Like, he's had a lot of fights, a lot of experience, and a lot of like wild stuff, flying whatevers. Quite a few submissions on his record as well. But then coming into the UFC, and as he was walking out, they were hyping him up, and he was doing backflips on the stage and stuff. And then you can imagine what his life was like the day before his UFC debut and the day after, when he woke up and opened his phone, and all of a sudden flying knee videos are all over the place. It like reinforces. Same thing with Diego Sanchez, right?
I was just going to mention that.
It just reinforces that, oh, okay, I'll do this, right? You know? Like, if you reward the dog every time he barks at the doorbell, he's going to fucking bark at the doorbell every time, right? It's the same thing. Like, he's barking at the same doorbell, and I think he's calmed down a bit because he's felt that exhaustion in the Connolly fight. But I don't know as he's applying his physical attributes as well as he could be. I think he could be much sharper in close range than he is. I don't know. I don't know what his training's like though. I bet he's a fucking handful to train. Can you imagine? No. Stay on the floor this time.
Jab. Just jab.
20 kilo ankle weights on the motherfucker just to hold him down. I was a bit disappointed for Fialho. I think there's some interesting fights in the UFC for him, but they're always going to be kind of bangers. Like someone like a Brian Barberena would be fun. Someone that's going to, quite happy to stand and grapple a little bit and, trade a bit. And
do you agree that it was just because he was only like throwing punches, like boxing focus?
Yeah, he could have done a lot more to slow the movement of Pereira down. Especially because, we talked about this. Like, he had one of the two components of footwork that you need to control someone that moves a lot. He understands that he needs to keep that person between himself and the fence, so he's controlling the center of the cage. But he wasn't closing one door to walk them onto the next, and that's like the next component that he would have needed. And had he had that component, then he would have been able to start chopping into the legs of Pereira. So, like, you limit the movement by trapping them against the fence and giving them 3 options, or 4 if you're Pereira, because he's got up as well. So your 3 options for movement is left, right, and level change. Mm-hmm. As I'm then pressing forward, if I then lower my stance or threaten that rear uppercut or the knee, then I can discourage the level change. Yeah. So then I'm cutting that down to 50-50. I've got left or right options now. Now if I take a small step to my left, I close that right door for them, which means that I know they're being forced towards my right hand. And then I can do what I want with that. I can hit them with my right hand. I can kick them in the body. I can low kick them. But, like, you cut down their options, which then changes your options. But he wasn't doing that part of his game. Yeah. He was just, okay, let me walk into range, and then once I'm close enough to box, then I'll throw punches. Yeah. And that was the disconnect there. I see it a lot. But then, like, we watched loads of Nigel Benn yesterday, like Chris Eubank, and just fucking awesome boxers. And there's a lot more going on there, but then they've got a much smaller skill set to deal with. But then if you think that could be transplanted into MMA in a much better way than it already is.